Yeah.
Allie?
Like the first game Unstuck in Time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what that was like happening.
Well, on couple things with it. Well, you can even like take a look in the book since we have the page number. He first becomes unstuck during World War II. At the bottom of 30, after there's a little break, paragraph starts and so on. Billy says that he first came unstuck in time in 1944, long before his trip to Tralfamadore. The Tralfamadorians didn't have anything to do with his coming unstuck. They were simply able to give him insights into what was really going on. So not that all of a sudden now everything makes sense, but with the whole time traveling thing, I think we tend to go, okay, that's not a human event that would be happening. That's something that the aliens have introduced to him. But you have this example here with line 30 where him coming unstuck in time seems to be completely independent of the Tralfamadorians or any kind of alien life form. Why would that be important? Well, I guess it kind of depends what you're trying to figure out with the book, but with understanding, I guess, Billy as a character, why would it be significant that this, for lack of a better phrase, unstuck in time thing doesn't originate with him being abducted by aliens and flying saucer blessings and all that kind of stuff?
He's already an alien.
He's a Tralfamadorian that grew a second hand, and the eyeball went like. I forgot for your quiz to have you draw Tralfamadorians on the back of your quiz. That was question number 11.
I don't know.
You got others to read. You make it sound like you had it over.
Would that have counted as a point?
No, but it would have been fun to look at. What's it mean to be unstuck in time? Like, or at least from like Billy's perspective, or anybody.
Means that like, if only his, if not his physical body, his mental consciousness is just going back and forth through various points of his life.
Okay, so mental consciousness, kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
All right, so. His mental consciousness is, just kind of moving around. And this is happening, or begins to happen, in World War II. Is it understandable that someone's mental consciousness would be kind of bouncing all over the place come World War II? And I would think, sure, you take a look at least writers or people that we know that have experienced war. From folks this year, certainly, J.D. Salinger, had some pretty lasting effects upon him. If Lonnie's been struggling for 23 years before he can write a book about the bombing of Dresden, certainly it had some things to do with it. So the whole idea about someone not being, I hate using the word stable because it makes it sound as if, war has made you crazy, but by having a different viewpoint or a changed outlook because of war wouldn't really be all that surprising for us. With Elliot Rosewater, or Rose H2O, on your quiz, what's Rosewater? Introduce him to? Gilbert Trout, who's our science fiction writer. Remember when he meets Elliot Rosewater, he would be in the VA hospital at this point after basically suffering a nervous breakdown. So what thing kind of happens for you if your mental consciousness is kind of askew and someone introduces science fiction to you, all kind of at the same time? It's a nice little blend, because what can the science fiction offer that maybe the quote-unquote real world can't? Here's an escape, an explanation for like how I could kind of be in stuff. So and for some people, for some readers it really matters, for others it doesn't. But for some readers it really matters is to figure out, is this really happening to Billy? So Allie, with you bringing up First Came Unstuck in Time, if you're a person trying to figure out what's really going on with Allie, with Billy, what is going on with Allie? what's going on with Billy, I think this kind of gives you a clue that really World War I or II, I can't do anything today, is really where this kind of starts. And as Emma said, science fiction kind of gives that escape, that rationale, that reason for why I don't feel quote unquote, normal, so to speak. So the aliens, sci-fi, can be an escape or a reason for being unstuck. Now, I think you could also make the argument that we're all unstuck too, and that's not to say that we're crazy or anything like that. Well, like, I bet every day, at least in some shape or form, we probably become unstuck in time. I mean, do you ever come back to childhood? Just think about it. Some of you are still thinking about Disney. I think about Disney. Some of you are thinking about when you turn 6 or losing first tooth or all those kinds of things, and some of you are still going back to that first failed CHS chem test.
Go back.
Good old days. You remember that? September 24th, 2016.
No, we got it back on October 1st, actually.
Was this the first pit test? So this is like when it was like 33%.
It wasn't that low, but it was pretty close.
Well, but for any of those moments, what are we simply doing? You're remembering them, you're going through your memory. So the whole traveling thing, I don't think is too far out there for us. And certainly any kind of event that's had meaningful impact, positive or negative, you are going to relive those memories over and over and over again. But for Billy, his issue is he doesn't seem to have any control over what those memories are, and he just kind of moves around. And that kind of allows him to become a little bit more apathetic, which that could be a whole other issue and problem in itself. Good question. I don't know.
I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
I don't get it. She's not really.
It means you don't care. Basically.
To get all philosophical, and who knows where this is going to take us, do you think we have free will?
Yes and no.
That's everyone's first answer, and you can't go that route.
I heard it got intense in first period.
I wouldn't say intense.
It's first period.
First period is always falling asleep.
Why are you saying yes, no?
I don't know, like, well, we were talking about it in study hall, and I was talking about, like, you know, like those magazines where, like, it's like, are you crushing? And it goes like, yes, and it like leads you down a path, and then no, and it leads you down a different path.
Read those magazines all the time.
Yeah, like Tiger Beat or like J14 or whatever they were called. But it was like, I believe that like our whole life is like that. Like it's all mapped out in front of us, but we have so many different choices along the way that like we know, like it is all mapped out, but it can go many different ways if that makes sense.
Okay, so you're doing the choose your own adventure like book series thing
Yeah,
where there are specific options that you can pick, but there are parameters within those options.
Yes.
Okay. So the yes in that Sean has choices, but he can't force the reciprocation of those feelings. So there are parameters to what those choices can be. But no, in the sense that you said life is like mapped out. You said like your life is already mapped out.
Yes.
So like higher power.
Yes.
So yes, in the sense that there are choices. No, boundaries exist. Higher power maps things out. I guess we should have even mentioned this. when you say free will, what does that mean? Like the ability to freely do what you will, that you're in control of your own life, future. I hate saying in control of fate or destiny, because then it seems to be too contradictory terms, because I think a lot of times we think of free will as being the opposite of fate. So if you say you're in control of your own fate, then you're kind of running into a circle.
To what extent of free will are we talking about, like, being able to make your own choices, or are we talking about, like, somehow, this binder was always going to be the same for death?
Well, yeah,
and code was always going to do that.
And probably not really answering the question for you.
That's what the chocolate Dorian thing, right?
The trial for the Dorians, that's at the end of chapter 4. If I hadn't spent, this is page 86, if I hadn't spent so much time studying Earthling instead of trial for the Dorian, I wouldn't have any idea what was meant by free will. I've visited 31 inhabited planets in the universe, and I have studied reports on 100 more. Only on Earth is there any talk of free will. So the idea that you have the ability to at least determine some kind, I guess you could say some kind of aspect of your life. Because you could go, there's different degrees of free will. Sean is saying, I have a certain amount of degree that I can control, but there are some things beyond my realm. Others would go, I'm here because I was meant to be here and I will always be here. And others would certainly go that, Ashley has total control of her own future. It's solely to her as to what's going on. Yeah, right.
I think you have total control. I think that you can, I don't know, I think that you choose whatever you want, and there can't be a set path, because everything can change so much with a single decision.
And not to make things more confusing, I guess you could kind of also, and I'm not trying to change your answer into Sean's, but some would go, I have total control, but some higher being, whether we're talking religious or not, already knows what it is I'm going to do. So I'm in control, but they knew ahead of time of what it was. And so that would kind of almost be like a combo.
I do believe in free will. I'm not a big believer in destiny or fate. I'm always of the mindset of if you want to do something, then by all means do it. But I also agree with Sean that we ourselves create the boundaries that we have. Like, for example, if I wanted to rob a bank, I could do that, but then I would go to jail. Then I would go to jail for it. So I can't live my life consequence free. I have to take in the mindset what my decisions may be and what consequences of that will come.
So laws don't limit your free will, but laws might keep you in check from acting upon your free will.
Yeah, it's like a social contract.
Mm-hmm. When we did the synthesis essay for schools, individuality versus conformity, a couple weeks back, a lot of folks were making reference to the student expectations that was on the back of the packet, and so they're talking about dress code things and stuff like that. And people were making the comment that schools' dress codes could limit what it is that I want to wear as a student. And going along those rounds that Kobe was saying, going, no, it doesn't limit what you can wear, but the consequences that you could face by wearing something that says whatever, that's what's keeping you from wearing it. So there was in the term that came up in first period, there's a difference between free will versus discipline, or rules, regulations. You choose to be disciplined in some things you do, but that doesn't mean that you don't have the capability of absolutely doing it.
I think that it's kind of a little bit under total control, not quite total control, because a lot of what happens to you, I feel depends on other people a lot of the time. If someone else makes a stupid decision and like hits into your car while you're driving and like hurts you or a family member, like that can alter decisions that can alter like your outlook on what you wanted to do for the rest of your life. Like that could majorly change things. So you kind of have to readjust and like reconsider with like the current circumstances that have been like dealt to you, like where you can go from there.
So you would put like almost total control in the sense that the interactions that you have with other people, I can't determine how Byron treats me or what he says, and so if he were to punch me in the face right now,
I
You
would.
couldn't.
I don't have the ability to necessarily control how my life's going to be because of factors of him. Okay.
But doesn't that just push you back one step? Because if we go like or just the punching example, like so I have free will in making that punch, or was it just gonna punch you? So it just pushes you back.
How the decisions of one person continue, so there's still
Yeah.
that free will, which starts somewhere,
Yeah.
but the impacts would be someplace else.
I'm kind of like thinking like in French we've been watching this video and it's been kind of talking about like how like certain people are given like less of an opportunity than others, and I think that kind of goes along with this because I think you have as much control as like you don't have as much control, you have like more control, but you kind of have to work with what you're given with.
Mhm.
Because you can't because like if what did French have here? Like they were playing this game of Monopoly. It was like a game of Monopoly, and then the guy who was like the like producer or whoever was in it, like was recording it, was like changing the rules as you go. Like you make it seem like okay, you only get $150 for this because like you're a girl, or you only get one to roll the dice just because like kids don't get to like go as far in their education. Like it's just like a bunch of like rules like in today's society that like there are. So like handicapped people, like poor people, people who like can't buy houses, minorities. Like it was just a bunch of things like that's what you're given, and that's what you're born with.
And this probably isn't really a good example of what the two of you were talking about, but when my student taught at Oliver, so just down the road, really from where we were, I had 3 different levels, juniors too, I think. It was 10th grade or 11th grade, so I think it was juniors. But it was 3 different levels. There was, they called CAS, which it wasn't AP, but it would kind of be like that. And then there was an honors, and then there was regular. And all 3 classes, this was the beginning of the year, we were doing the Scarlet Letter. What a fun way to start the year. How I used to start the year too, but then I got sick of it. In CAS, I was able to pass out the books. Here, have the book. Read chapters 1 and 2 for tomorrow, whatever the case may be. In regular and in the honors, I could pass out the book, but there was a stipulation. The book had to stay here. Don't take it home. So how do you read the book?
In class.
Part of the reason why Sparkman was probably around, but it wasn't as wide. So how do you read the book? You read it in class. What's one of the reasons why I can't stand the Scarlet Letter? Because we read the whole freaking book in class for however many weeks it took, and it did not take 1 week. So, and you haven't read the Scarlet Letter, so be happy about that. But that would be, and the reason why, and this is great, why can't we pass them out? Because there was a fear. What if they don't come back?
The books are the kids.
Yes.
Annalise.
Could be both.
You're not keeping the kids in the class.
Once Annalise gets the book, she's not coming back.
Throw away the book.
Well, yeah, it was, and the fear was if we don't get the books back, then we have to order more books and drain on budget and all that kind of stuff. We can give it to the AP kids because we can trust them. Now, over the years, I've learned that you don't really trust anybody.
What are you trying to say, Mr. Casey?
He's saying he doesn't really.
See, I didn't have free will to say that. I believe that.
But that would be a thing where society has kind of created so many boundaries because there's only so much, education, intellectual development, and what can happen within certain schools, certain areas, locations, and things like that. independent of what Allie or Emma's drive certainly would be. So if you're in a school that would be able to offer more, if you're in a college that would be able to offer more, then you would create your own boundaries. But if you're in a place where, not all those opportunities are necessarily equal, you can kind of think of it as like cooking challenges on Food Network if you like watching those shows. Just when you think you have the cupcakes the way you want, they throw out the surprise ingredient and then Grace gets completely thrown off. Someone else could kind of create those boundaries. There's certainly no way in which we're going to come to an agreement upon, and this is what it really comes down to when you have free will, because I don't think there's going to be any kind of agreement about that. And certainly religious viewpoints, can also have an impact and effect upon you. Question would be, though, why would it matter to Vonnegut, or do you get any sense as to how it would be important within the message that he's trying to get across? Do you get the sense that Vonnegut would be going, yes, we do have free will, we're not like the Troutman-Midorians? Is there so much Billy coming unstuck in time where he lacks the control of where he's going to be, he lacks the free will that you're supposed to believe, I guess I'm not in control of much. How does that kind of play into the point that he's trying to get across? Because the aliens are certainly a big part of, whether they're real or not, their mindset, so it goes, is certainly a big part of the book. What are we as humans supposed to take from it then? I don't. According to Vonnegut. Just simply because the aliens are there?
No, because if they're saying so it goes, then things are happening to you, you're not doing things.
How'd you word that? Things are
Happening to you.
Happening to you.
You're not doing things.
any agreement or disagreement?
Kind of agree with what you said, because they kind of just like, so it feels like whatever happens, happens, like you can't really, like some of the things, like people dying in the war, like how really just say so it goes, like you just like, oh, he died, like move on, like don't break over it or anything, like anything that happens, just kind of brush up.
And not that it's strictly a Troutman-Midorian thing, when the POWs are getting out of the boxcar, going into the POW camp, you even have the German soldier, by us, by anybody, where people kind of start to ask why me, and that why becomes a big question that folks always want to ask.
I think also just the act of him becoming unstuck in time means that he doesn't have free will, because if he truly became unstuck in time, I would like to think that he would be in the same location when he left. But no, he's in a specific spot.
Like when he comes back to it, you mean?
Yeah, or when he jumps forward or jumps back, he's always in a specific place at a specific time at a specific date. He doesn't have any control over where he ends up, and like what shape his body is or who he's with. It's just kind of like predetermined steps in his life.
One of the points, and not trying to go disagree, but bring something up because of what Billy says so often, or because Billy plays such a big part, and the Troutman-Midorians certainly play such a big part. We kind of focus on what they say and do. We did mention that, remember, that this idea of so it goes, it's a Troutman-Midorian point of view, and it's certainly embraced by Billy, but we have some examples that would kind of come in to let us know Billy and Vonnegut are not the same. Remember, we do have that shift in point of view where, and I was there, being Kurt Vonnegut as there in addition to Billy, but letting us know there's still some separation, some delineation from him. The tough thing with the book is it's so much Billy, it's so much Troutman-Midorians, but then like in chapter 1 you do get that reference to Lot and his wife, Sodom and Gomorrah with the S&G, and I loved her for that she turned into a pillar of salt, that she looked back, that was the human thing to do. The genre of the book, the most popular ones that you hear would be anti-war, science fiction, but then there would also, I would say, be a third one that you would want to certainly take a look at. Dealing with dark humor, criticism. There's certainly a satirical element that would be going on within the course of the book. So It Goes shows up, obviously a bunch of times. 106, I think, is the number that it is. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be what Vonnegut would be believing. Why have So It Goes show up so often? If, and kind of thinking now to what Matt Murder said, in a time of conflict, as people do die that you're not related to, that you don't have any personal connection to, the first death probably means more or seems to weigh upon us more than the subsequent ones. But if person number 1,217 dies, that should be just as significant as the first one, but why don't we seemingly care as much? Because there's been so many in the meantime that we've kind of gotten used to it or numb to it. So the whole idea about, humanity kind of going so it goes, you could go, that's a terrible way to kind of view life. That's a terrible way to look at death, that it doesn't have much of an impact on people anymore. But I would tend to think that that's probably a way that a lot of us do tend to look at deaths that are detached from us, that don't necessarily resonate. So part of the social criticism could be the what do we as Americans do, or what do we as people in general do? We don't care enough. If you do care about something that is not going well, what do you have to do? Or what should you do, I guess? Something's not working, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to make a change. What does that require? You to make a decision, you to make a choice, and that would require you to have the free will to go about and do it. But I think a lot of times, and Sean, not picking on you, hey, there's boundaries out there. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm going to get in trouble with it. No, I can't make that. I can't make that call. You take a look at Parkland shooting. Boundaries would exist dealing with kind of gun control and any kind of reform that could take place. Now people are kind of stepping outside of those boundaries, and that's starting to make people uncomfortable. So there's change starting to happen, but you need someone to kind of push that envelope a little bit, to kind of push that boundary for that change to come along. When it comes to reactions to World War II, reactions to Vietnam War, which would be going on at the time of the publishing of the book, what Vonnegut probably doesn't want us to respond to these things would be, oh, there's a war coming, so it goes. Well, no, there's a war coming. There should be some kind of way that we can make a change about it so that this doesn't keep happening over and over and over again, so that you don't have massacres keep repeating over and over and over again. What do birds say about massacres? Who do eat? Which means but what is it? It's probably not so it goes.
Like what's going on?
Because if I look at it with my seasoned veteran AP English language and composition eyes, I look at diction, I look at syntax. So it goes is a statement. Who to eat is a question.
So asking why.
Maybe. Do we know? No, because it's an impossible question to answer if we don't know necessarily what the question is. But the only intelligent thing that birds can say about a massacre is poo-to-eat. It would seem to be that would be an appropriate question to ask if you're speaking about a massacre. Why would something like that have to happen? And in some ways, that could be kind of part of the satire that's out there, where you try to figure out an answer to everything. You can't always figure out an answer. There's not always a nice, easy solution to everything that would be going on. You take a look at these things here. Mustard gas roses, blue and ivory, orange and black, Three Musketeers, nestled like spoons. Any idea why I would have lumped all of them together? Because it's not like the second thing that would show up in the book. Mustard gas and roses pops up pretty rarely. Whose breath? It's a very safe answer. It's Vonnegut's breath. He describes it in chapter 1. What will he do? Dial up random numbers, and then, or sometimes people that he knows, and his voice will be, breath will be mustard gas and roses. That comes up again later on, because right before Billy gets abducted, the phone rings, he answers it, and it's the wrong number, but there was the smell of mustard gas and roses. So and it almost seems like Vonnegut calls, Billy at that point. Three Musketeers. Roland has this, idea in his mind that we are the Three Musketeers and we save Billy and all this kind of stuff. So Roland and his quote-unquote friends. But then you also get Three Musketeers with the candy. Who likes the Three Musketeers bar besides Emma and Lindsay? Character-wise, Valencia eats the Three Musketeers bar. Orange and black. You remember where those colors show up? They're the tents for the wedding. Or I don't know that the bridesmaids were orange and black necessarily, but
Because it's
wedding tents. But then there's something that would be a little bit more ominous than wedding tents that are also orange and black that Billy would be involved in. It's the tops of the... No. It's the colors of the wedding. It's also the color of the boxcars that he is on. Blue and ivory. Billy's feet are described as being blue and ivory. Roland's feet turn blue and ivory. The German boy who is with him when they get captured has blue and ivory feet. And then he gets Roland's boots. Nestled like spoons gets described when Billy's on the boxcar. Also when he's with Valencia. So you have these, they're almost like little motifs that keep kind of coming up. There's a couple ways that you can look at those things. You keep having these references that seem to do what to rather chaotic and otherwise separated events? Connects them. At the same time, and why do we want them to connect things? Because that helps to make sense out of an otherwise chaotic book. Part of me thinks that it's almost like an inside joke by Vonnegut. What does he want English teachers to do? Maybe. Identify these things, throw them out to his students. Okay, go ahead and make a connection. When the real answer is, you have a whole bunch of isolated events that really have no connection. And the reason I start to kind of like that idea more is because what can you not do with war, like Pudui? You can't make sense of it, you can't answer it, you can't explain it. So there might be quote-unquote connections that link things together, but in the big scheme of things, maybe it doesn't really mean all that much. Or maybe by the end of the book we have an epiphany and realize it doesn't. The trout from the door. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I would say certainly. I have no control over memory. I remember, I think she was a postal worker in Westmoreland County, where she had like a rural route. And so she'd be driving her car, and if she hit a pothole on a rural road, it would take her back because she drove like the Humvees in the Army, and she was involved with the landmines all the time. So if she was driving in a desolate area and the thing would move, it would all of a sudden take her back to there. So you don't have necessarily control over, being unstuck in time. So I think with that part, absolutely, because it's going to be a traumatic, scenario that folks are going through experience. I think the trial for Midorians, it provides an escape or a reason as to why I'm unstuck. Well, since I can't explain it, here's this other viewpoint out there, and that becomes pretty seductive, in its own way.
Makes sense.
We'll see you later.
It was good.